Hey everyone, welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are jumping into something absolutely fundamental for connecting with people, no matter the language, really. But
Absolutely.
especially when you're, trying to build that fluency in English.
hmm
We're talking about the incredible power of telling stories.
Yes. Storytelling. It's huge. And we're digging into some great insights today, right? From a resource that's all about helping people master English communication.
Exactly. Specifically, we're looking at their material that focuses right in on storytelling techniques. I think it's from like day 8 of their program.
That sounds right. In storytelling, it's not just, for performers or writers. It's woven into just how we talk to each other every day.
Totally. It's how we share experiences, how we make sense of things.
We connect. It's really the fastest way to go from just sort of talking at someone
Yeah.
to actually talking with them. You're inviting them into your world for a moment.
And let's be honest, for anyone learning English, telling a story can feel, well, pretty daunting, like navigating a minefield sometimes.
Oh, definitely. You have this great thing that happened. Maybe it was funny or surprising or, really meaningful.
Right. You want to share it.
But then trying to put it into English words, getting the structure right, remembering which past tense to use, it can feel, overwhelming.
You worry about rambling, maybe? Or confusing the person you're talking to?
With just not making it sound as interesting as it actually was when you lived it. That's a big one.
Yeah, that feeling of it sounds better in my head. Or it sounded better in my native language.
Precisely. So common challenges. People often struggle with just knowing where to start and maybe just as importantly, where to stop.
Uh-huh. Keeping it concise.
Right. And then there are those tricky past tenses, using them correctly so your timeline makes sense so it sounds natural.
Oh, the tenses.
Yes.
Yes. Always a fun topic.
Always. And maybe the biggest hurdle for many is how do you make it compelling? How do you add that spark?
That thing that makes the listener just get caught up in it.
Yeah. Exactly. So they forget they're listening to someone who might be searching for words sometimes, and they just get lost in the actual story itself.
Well, that is exactly why we're doing this deep dive today, tailored specifically for you, the listener. Our mission here is to really distill the core knowledge from this resources approach.
We want to break down a simple but really effective structure you can use pretty much every time.
Yeah, make that part easy. And clarify how to use those key past tenses, naturally within your story.
And give you some practical, easy-to-apply techniques to make your stories genuinely engaging. Memorable, even.
Because it doesn't matter if you're just chatting over coffee or, sharing something in a work meeting.
Or just trying to describe what you did last weekend.
Right. Being able to tell a decent story, one that's structured and interesting, it just instantly makes you a better communicator in English.
It really does. It helps build rapport, makes people actually want to listen to what you have to say. It's a connection tool.
It turns just swapping facts into like a shared experience. So by the end of our chat today, our goal is that you'll have some really practical tools and a clear approach. You can start telling stories that grab attention and help you connect more deeply.
And we're not just going to list things off. We'll dig into why these structures and techniques work, the psychology behind it a bit.
Good point.
We'll use plenty of examples from the material, concrete ones you can really grab onto.
And show you how you can start practicing right away. Like today.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, let's get into it then. Let's unpack this. And the absolute first place we have to start, the foundation really, is structure.
Structure. It's non-negotiable. It really is. Think about it. Our brains are just... They're wired for narrative, aren't they?
Totally. We expect a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Exactly. And when a story doesn't have that clear structure, it feels messy, disorganized, it's confusing.
And listeners check out pretty fast if they're confused or bored.
Oh, immediately. It's like someone handing you a jigsaw puzzle box, but they forgot the picture on the front.
Huh. Yeah, good analogy. You've got all the
Yeah.
pieces.
But you have no idea how they fit together or what the final image is even supposed to be. Structure gives you that picture.
Okay, so the resource we're using provides a wonderfully simple, but like you said, incredibly effective 3-step structure.
Simple is good here.
Yeah, and you can apply it to almost any personal story, any anecdote, anything you want to share. Really, it just maps onto how we naturally process events.
And that structure is basically step 1, set the scene. Step 2, the action. And step 3, the outcome.
Beginning, middle, end. Sounds straightforward.
It is, but the magic is in understanding what goes into each step. Let's break them down properly.
All right, step 1, set the scene, the beginning. So what's the main job here?
The goal here is context. You need to give your listener just enough background so they understand the basic situation. Who's involved? Where are we? When did this happen?
Okay, but just enough, right? You mentioned avoiding getting lost, so not too much detail here.
Exactly. Not too much. You don't want to bury the interesting part, the action, under tons of setup, just the essentials. The core questions are who, where, when.
You're basically grounding the listener, giving them the coordinates for your story.
That's a great way to put it. Grounding them in the basic facts before things start happening.
The resource gives a nice, crisp example for this first step. Last summer, I was traveling in Italy with my best friend, Emma.
Okay, let's really look at that sentence. It's short, but it does a lot of work.
Yeah, well, what does it tell us?
Immediately, you know who, I, and my best friend Emma, you know where, Italy, and you know when, last summer.
Boom. Who, where, when, done.
In what, 15 words? It's efficient. It provides those essential coordinates, like you said. It creates this little mini world for the listener to step into.
And notice what's not there. It doesn't say why they were in Italy or what city or how they got there or what the weather was like.
None of that is needed yet. It might come later if it's relevant to the action, but for setting the scene, just the core facts are enough. Keep it clean. Keep it moving.
Okay, that makes sense. Avoid the info dump at the start. Just set the stage.
Precisely. So, once the stage is set, we move to step 2, the action.
The middle bit, the main event.
Exactly. This is the core of your story. This is where you describe what actually happened. The sequence of events, the incident, the challenge, the surprise, whatever the point of the story is.
And this is where the details start to become really important, right, to make it interesting.
Yes. This isn't just a dry list of this happened, then this happened. This is the heart of it. It's the reason you decided this experience was worth telling someone about in the first place.
Okay, so following that Italy example,
Yeah.
the action step example was, we got completely lost in a small village and no one spoke English.
Right. So the central event, the main action, is got completely lost. That's the core problem or situation.
But the details they added are crucial. In a small village that feels different than getting lost in, say, Rome. It implies maybe winding streets, fewer signs.
Good point. It adds a specific texture. And the other detail, no one spoke English. That immediately ramps up the challenge, doesn't it?
Yeah, it adds that layer of difficulty, potential frustration, maybe even a bit of panic. It makes the listener think, oh boy, how did they deal with that?
It introduces the complication, the obstacle they had to overcome. It pinpoints the conflict or the most significant thing you want to share from that experience.
So the action isn't just what happened, but often involves the circumstances around what happened, especially if they create challenge or interest.
Exactly. Getting lost is the action, but getting lost in a small village where nobody speaks your language, that's the specific experience, the thing that makes it a story worth telling. You're hinting at the drama, the unexpected turn.
Okay, got it. Scene set, action described with key details, leads us to step 3, the outcome.
The end. The resolution. How did it all turn out? How was that problem or situation resolved? What was the final state of affairs?
And maybe, what did you learn, or how did you feel at the end?
Yes, that can definitely be part of the outcome too. It gives closure. The resources example, wrapping up the Italy story, is, in the end, a kind old man helped us find our way back, and we even got invited to his house for dinner.
Ah, that's a great ending. So a kind old man helped us find our way back that clearly resolves the getting lost problem.
The core conflict is resolved. But then that extra detail.
And we even got invited to his house for dinner. That elevates it, doesn't it? It's not just we weren't lost anymore.
Right. It transforms a simple resolution into something memorable, maybe heartwarming, unexpected. It adds a positive twist that makes the whole story feel more satisfying.
It provides that sense of completion. We started in Italy, got lost, faced a challenge, found help, and ended with this lovely, unexpected act of kindness.
It wraps up that narrative arc neatly. And that final detail, the dinner invitation, it hints at something more, maybe the kindness of strangers, the unexpected joys that can come from travel mishaps. It leaves the listener with a nice feeling.
Okay, this 3-step structure seems really clear and logical. Let's look at that other short example story the resource provided, the skydiving one, and see how it fits.
Good idea. Let's break it down again. Listen for the beginning, scene, middle, action, and end, outcome. Here it is. Beginning. Last year, I decided to go skydiving for the first time with my friend, Mike. Middle. We were so nervous, and right before we jumped, Mike looked at me and said, "What if my parachute doesn't open?" End. Luckily, everything went perfectly, and it was one of the most exciting experiences of my life.
All right, let's map it. The beginning. Last year, I decided to go skydiving for the first time with my friend Mike. Okay, super clear.
Yeah.
When? Last year.
Huh?
Who? Me and Mike. What's the context? First time skydiving.
Sets it up perfectly. You immediately know it's probably a story about adventure, maybe facing fear.
Right, then the middle. We were so nervous, and right before we jumped, Mike looked at me and said, "What if my parachute doesn't open?" Okay, this is the action, but it's focused on that peak moment of tension, right?
Exactly. It doesn't just say we jumped. It focuses on the feeling, so nervous, and that specific dramatic moment before the jump, captured through dialogue.
And that quote from Mike,
Mm-hmm.
"What if my parachute doesn't open?" That's gold. It injects personality, humor, maybe dark humor.
Definitely dark humor. And it's such a relatable fear presented right at the climax of the tension. It makes you, the listener, feel that uh-oh moment with them.
Okay, and finally the end. Luckily, everything went perfectly, and it was one of the most exciting experiences of my life. Straightforward resolution.
Mm-hmm. Everything went perfectly. Resolves the tension created by Mike's question the parachute did open. And one of the most exciting experiences gives the overall takeaway, the feeling about the whole thing.
Wow. 3 sentences, but a complete story arc.
Mhm.
Scene, rising tension with a specific moment and dialogue, and then resolution and reflection.
It really shows how this simple structure works. It keeps things clear, prevents rambling, and ensures even a very short anecdote has impact. It gives you that mental roadmap.
So, using this framework is really the first big step towards clearer, more engaging stories. It helps you organize your thoughts beforehand.
And it guides your listener through the experience logically. They feel comfortable, they know where they are in the narrative.
It's the skeleton, as you said.
Exactly. And once you've got that solid skeleton, you can start adding the muscle and skin, the language, the details that put it all to life.
Which brings us neatly to the language tools,
Yeah.
specifically those past tenses.
Ah, yes, the tenses. Crucial for recounting past events, obviously, but also a common trip-up point for learners.
Definitely. You know you need a past tense, but which one? Past simple, past continuous, past perfect. Sometimes it feels like throwing darts.
And using the wrong one, or mixing them up inconsistently, can really muddy the waters. It can make the timeline unclear, make your story sound choppy, or just unnatural.
Right, it breaks that smooth flow you get when someone uses them correctly.
Absolutely. So the resource focuses on the 3 key past tenses that do most of the heavy lifting in narrative storytelling in English. If you can get comfortable with these 3, you're in really good shape.
Okay, what are the big 3?
Past simple, past continuous, and past perfect.
Right, let's start with the workhorse, the one you probably use the most. Past simple.
The past simple. Its main job in storytelling is to describe the main sequence of events. These are the completed actions that happen one after another, pushing the story forward.
Like the plot points.
Exactly. The verbs that drive the narrative. Think of them as the stepping stones through your story.
The examples given were, we arrived at the airport and checked in for our flight, and she called me last night to tell me the news.
Okay, look at the first one. Arrived, completed action. Checked in, another completed action that happened after arriving. They're sequential. Past simple nails that sequence. They are the main things that happened in that part of the story.
Makes sense. Action 1, then action 2. Both finished.
And the second one, she called me last night. Called is a single finished action at a specific time in the past, last night. Past simple is perfect for these definite, completed past events. It's your default tense for just recounting what happened.
Okay, straightforward enough. Next up, past continuous. This one feels like it adds more. Texture.
That's a great word for it. Texture, context, background. The past continuous describes actions that were ongoing or happening over a period of time in the past.
So not just a single point in time, but something stretching out a bit.
Right. It's often used for setting the scene, describing what was happening in the main events. Or it can describe a longer action that got interrupted by a shorter one, which would usually be in past simple.
Okay, examples help here. The resource gave, it was raining when we left the hotel, and I was talking to my friend when I saw a celebrity.
Let's take the first one. It was raining when we left the hotel. The action was raining describes the background condition. The rain wasn't just one drop. It was happening continuously while the main action, left, past simple, occurred.
Ah, okay, so the leaving is the main event, the raining is the backdrop.
Exactly. It paints the picture. Saying, it rained when we left, sounds a bit abrupt, maybe like it started raining right then. It was raining implies it was already going on, setting the mood.
That makes a difference. It feels more immersive.
It does. And the second example, I was talking to my friend when I saw a celebrity. here was talking,
Mm-hmm.
is the longer, ongoing background action.
Right. You were in the middle of the conversation.
When suddenly the shorter, interrupting action happened. I saw, past simple. The past continuous shows the duration of the talking, setting the stage for the sudden interruption.
Okay, so past continuous gives that sense of duration, background, or something being in progress when something else happens.
Precisely. It provides the context against which your main past simple events unfold. Very useful for scene setting and showing interruptions.
Got it. Now, for the one that sometimes feels a bit more complex, the past perfect.
Ah, the past perfect. Its job is timeline management, essentially. It's used when you're already telling a story in the past, using past simple and continuous, but you need to refer to something that happened even earlier than that point in your story.
So it's like a flashback within your past narrative.
Kind of. It signals to the listener, hold on, the thing I'm about to mention happened before the main past events we were just talking about. It clarifies the sequence when you jump back.
Okay, the examples were, by the time we got to the station, the train had already left,
Yeah.
and I had never tried sushi before that day.
Right, first one. By the time we got to the station, the train had already left. Two past events here. Got to the station, past simple, and the train had left, past perfect.
So getting to the station happened in the past.
But the train leaving happened before you got there. Using had left makes that sequence absolutely clear. If you just said the train already left, it's a bit less precise, maybe slightly awkward. Past perfect nails the before this other past event timing.
It's like putting a timestamp on it saying this one's older.
Exactly. A timestamp within the past. And the second one? I had never tried sushi before that day. You're telling a story about that day in the past, and you used had never tried to refer to the state of affairs before that specific day began.
Okay, so it sets up a prior condition relevant to the story you're telling about that day.
Precisely. It gives background that explains something about the main narrative time.
Right, this is making more sense. To help lock it in, the resource had that practice sentence. Let's do it. Listener, get ready.
Okay, the sentence is, yesterday, I see an old friend while I walk in the park. You need to choose past simple or past continuous for each blank. Think about the actions.
Pause. Okay, what verb goes where? See. Walk. One's a quick event, one's ongoing.
What do you think? The first one, see, feels like the main short action, right? And walk feels like the background activity happening over time.
So, the answer should be, yesterday I saw an old friend while I was walking in the park.
Bingo. Saw, past simple, is the main event, the thing that happened at a point in time. Was walking, past continuous, describes the ongoing activity during which you saw your friend.
It just sounds right, too, once you plug them in. I was seeing an old friend. Sounds weird unless you mean dating, like you said earlier.
Exactly. And while I walked doesn't quite capture that background feeling. So focusing on the function main event versus background action really helps choose the right tense.
Practice is definitely key here. The resource suggests telling short stories and consciously thinking about the tenses.
Yeah, start super simple. Tell a story about making breakfast this morning. I woke up, past simple. The sun was shining, past continuous, through the window. I went past simple downstairs. I hadn't eaten past perfect anything yet, so I made past simple some toast while the coffee was brewing, past continuous.
Oh, nice example. You used all three there naturally.
See, you just focus on the sequence and the timing. Main actions. Woke up, went, made, background, sun was shining, coffee was brewing, earlier state, hadn't eaten. It feels slow at first, pausing to think, but it gets faster.
And listen for it when native speakers talk or when you're reading. Notice how they use these tenses to build the narrative.
Definitely. Active listening helps internalize the patterns.
Okay, so we've got the structure, the roadmap, we've got the tenses, the right engine power for the journey. But now, how do we make the ride enjoyable? How do we add the color, the personality, the spark?
The engagement factor. This is where storytelling goes from just conveying information to creating an experience for the listener.
Because a story can be perfectly structured, grammatically flawless, and still be well.
Dry, boring, forgettable.
Exactly. The difference between just listing facts and telling a captivating story is in the details, the emotion, the life you breathe into it.
And the good news is, the resource highlights 3 really simple but incredibly powerful techniques you can use to instantly make your stories more engaging.
Simple is good. What's technique number 1?
Use descriptive words. It sounds obvious, maybe, but it's about consciously moving beyond bland, generic language.
like using stronger adjectives and adverbs.
Exactly. Words that create a vivid picture, appeal to the senses, spark the listener's imagination. The resource had that classic comparison. Bad example. The beach was nice. Good example. The beach was breathtaking, with golden sand and crystal clear water.
Oh, yeah. The difference is night and day. Nice tells me almost nothing. It's beige.
It's the definition of generic, but breathtaking that conveys a strong emotion, awe. Golden sand, specific visual color makes you imagine it. Crystal clear water, again, a specific visual implies purity, maybe invites you to imagine swimming.
You're not just telling me it was good, you're showing me why it was good with specific sensory details.
Precisely, it becomes immersive. Think about other examples. Instead of the food was good, maybe the pizza had a perfectly crispy crust and tangy tomato sauce. Instead of the room was big, maybe the room was spacious, with high ceilings and sunlight pouring in.
It forces you to think more specifically about the experience yourself, too, doesn't it? To recall those details.
It does, which in turn makes your recounting of it much richer for the listener. So descriptive words, big impact.
Okay, technique number 2.
Add emotions. Stories connect because they're about human experience, and feelings are central to that. Sharing how you felt invites the listener to connect emotionally.
So don't just state facts, state feelings.
Yes, but even better, show the feeling. Describe how it manifested physically or mentally. It makes the emotion much more tangible. The resource used this example. Bad example. I was scared. Good example. I was terrified. My heart was racing, and I could barely breathe.
Again, huge difference. Scared is just a label, but terrified is stronger. And then describing the physical sensations, heart was racing, could barely breathe, that's powerful.
Because most people know what that feels like. Even if they haven't been in your exact situation, they've felt their heart race when scared. You're tapping into a shared human experience.
You're showing, not just telling, making them feel it with you.
Exactly. Instead of I was happy, maybe I was beaming, I couldn't stop smiling. Instead of he was angry, perhaps his face turned red and he clenched his fists. Describing the physical signs makes the emotion much more real and relatable.
Okay, descriptive words, add emotions, and show them. What's technique number 3?
Use direct speech, dialogue. This is such a fantastic way to bring your story to life.
Like quoting what people actually said.
Exactly. When you use someone's exact words, it's like opening a little window directly into that moment. It makes the people in your story feel real, makes interactions immediate and dynamic.
Way better than just summarizing like, he said he was angry.
Oh, much better. The resource had this great comparison. Bad example. The waiter told me the food was spicy. Good example. The waiter looked at me and said, "Are you sure you want to eat that? It's very spicy."
I love that one. The first is just information. The second is a mini scene. You hear the waiter's actual words, the emphasis on very.
You even get the little action "looked at me," suggesting his expression, maybe raising an eyebrow. It adds character, tone, maybe humor or concern. It makes the interaction totally memorable.
It makes it feel like it's happening right now in your imagination.
It really does. Direct speech is brilliant for moments of surprise, humor, conflict, or just when a particular phrase someone used was really telling or funny. It breaks up the narration and adds energy.
Okay, these 3 techniques seem really practical. Descriptive words, showing emotions, and using dialogue.
They are, and they don't require complex grammar, just a conscious choice to add more flavor. The resource had another comparison example to really hammer home the impact of just adding some detail.
Right, listen to these 2 and think which one pulls you in more.
We had dinner at a restaurant. We found this amazing little Italian restaurant, and the pasta was the best I've ever had.
Chuckles. Okay, that's almost unfair. The first one is like a diary entry. Snooze.
Right, it's purely functional. The second one, though, amazing little Italian restaurant, gives you a specific, positive image. Pasta was the best I've ever had. Strong personal feeling makes you curious.
You immediately want to know more. Where was it? What kind of pasta? It turns a non-event into a mini highlight, just with a couple of engaging details.
Exactly. It shows that even everyday occurrences can become little stories worth sharing if you inject some description and feeling.
Okay, let's try that practice idea the resource suggested. Take a super simple sentence and try to jazz it up. The sentence is, I went to the park yesterday.
All right, listener, pause for a second if you need to. How could you make that more interesting using description, senses, maybe emotion? What did you see, hear, feel?
Pause.
Okay, maybe you thought of adding something about the weather or people or sounds. The resource suggested this enhanced version. I went to the park yesterday, and the sun was shining, kids were laughing, and I could hear birds singing in the trees.
Ugh, lovely. That paints a picture instantly. Sun was shining, visual, warmth, kids laughing, sound, feeling of joy, activity, birds singing, another pleasant sound.
It transports the listener there for a moment. It uses sensory details, sight, sound, to recreate the experience of being in the park, not just the fact of being there.
It really shows that thinking about your senses, what do you see, hear, smell, maybe even touch or taste, is a great way to find those engaging details.
Absolutely. Those sensory details, combined with emotions and dialogue, are what transform a flat account into a story that resonates and connects. And remember, these aren't just for epic adventures. They make small, everyday moments more interesting to share, too.
These techniques are powerful. Combine them with that solid structure and the right tenses. That's the recipe for effective storytelling.
It really is. It takes practice, conscious effort at first, but the payoff in terms of clearer, more engaging communication is huge.
So how can people start putting all this together? The resource provided a simple framework for practice, right? To integrate everything.
Yes, exactly. A straightforward framework that pulls the structure and the idea of adding detail together. It's designed as a practical tool to get you started.
Okay, let's lay out that framework. It simplifies the process.
Here it is, the simple storytelling practice framework. Step 1. Set the scene. Think. Who, where, when. Get that basic context down, e.g., last winter I was in New York City. Step 2. Describe the main event. What happened? What was the core action, the problem, the surprise? Add details here. Suddenly I realized I had lost my phone in Times Square.
Step 3. The outcome. How did it end? What was the resolution, the final feeling, maybe what you learned? E.g., luckily, a kind stranger found it and returned it to me.
So it's basically the three-part structure again, but framed as actionable steps for practice, explicitly reminding you to add details in the middle.
Precisely. It's your practice blueprint. You can take almost any small experience and map it onto these 3 steps. Think about a time you misunderstood something funny.
Okay, let's try. Step 1. Scene. Last week, I was ordering coffee at that new cafe downtown. When, who, where? Good start. Step 2. Main event. With details.
Okay, the barista asked me something, but with the mask and the noise, I totally misheard. I thought she asked for my sign, like my zodiac sign.
Chuckles.
Okay, so I proudly said Leo, and she just stared at me blankly. Then she repeated slowly, "No, your name for the cup." What happened? Misheard question. Detail thought she asked for zodiac sign. Dialogue Leo. No, your name. Added emotion, implied embarrassment.
Perfect. Use dialogue, implied emotions, specific detail, and step 3, outcome.
I turned bright red, mumbled my name, paid as fast as I could, and practically ran out. But, it was pretty funny looking back, how it ended. Embarrassment, quick escape, feeling takeaway funny in retrospect.
See, a simple, everyday moment becomes a relatable, funny little story using that structure and adding those engaging elements. The framework just guides you through it.
It makes it feel much more manageable. You're not just faced with tell a story. You've got clear steps, focus on the beats, then add the flavor.
And using this framework consistently when you practice, even just mentally planning a story, helps solidify that narrative thinking. You start to automatically look for the scene, the action, the outcome, and the juicy details. It builds confidence.
Wow, okay. We've really dug deep into the core components of powerful storytelling in English today, pulling all these great insights from the source material.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground. We started with that crucial 3-part structure. Beginning, set the scene, who, where, when. Middle, the action, what happened, add details. And end, the outcome, how did it finish, the result. That's your essential roadmap.
Then we tackled those key past tenses. Past simple for the main sequential actions. We arrived, we checked in. Past continuous for background or ongoing actions. It was raining when we left. And past perfect for things that happened even earlier. The train had already left.
Yeah.
Getting those right makes your timeline crystal clear.
Absolutely. And then we moved on to the techniques for making stories actually engaging, the spark. Use descriptive words, breathtaking beach, amazing little restaurant. Add emotions, especially by showing them. Heart racing, couldn't stop smiling. And bring interactions alive with direct speech. He said, "Are you sure?"
Those little things make such a huge difference. They turn a report into a real story.
They really do. And finally, we wrapped up with that simple practice framework, set scene, main event, outcome as a practical tool you can use right now to start putting it all together.
So if you've ever felt like your stories get lost in translation or you struggle to make them sound interesting in English,
These techniques offer a really clear, actionable path forward. You've got the skeleton structure, the engine tenses, and the tools to add the lifeblood engagement techniques.
Applying these principles, even starting small, is going to make your stories clearer, way more engaging, and honestly, more fun to tell and listen to. It boosts your confidence and helps you connect.
Which brings us right to the challenge. Time to put theory into practice. The resource lays out a specific task for you, the listener.
Okay, here is your challenge for today. Step 1. Think of a short story from your own life. Keep it simple to start: funny, surprising, embarrassing, meaningful, whatever feels right. Maybe that coffee shop story I just told, or something similar. Step 2. Grab a piece of paper, or just do it in your head. Quickly plan it using the 3-step structure. Beginning, scene, who, where, when.
Yeah.
Middle, action, what happened. End, outcome, how it finished. Just a word or two for each. Step 3. Now tell the story out loud to yourself, record it, write it, tell a friend, whatever works. But as you do, consciously try to include at least one descriptive word that's better than just nice or good.
Well,
Try to express an emotion, maybe mentioning how it felt physically, and if possible, add one line of dialogue. Oh, and keep an ear on those past tenses.
this conscious application is where the learning really sticks. It might feel a little bit mechanical at first, pausing to think, okay, need a descriptive word here, but that's how you build the habit.
Totally normal for it to feel a bit clunky initially. It gets smoother with practice.
And we'd love for you to reflect on this. Think about the story you just practiced. What story did you choose? Which technique structure, tenses, description, emotion, dialogue felt the most helpful this time? And be honest with yourself. What felt like the hardest part of telling that story in English today?
Yeah, identifying the tricky parts is super valuable. It tells you exactly where to focus your energy next time.
Exactly. Engaging with those questions helps consolidate what you've learned and shows you your personal next steps. Storytelling is absolutely a skill you build over time.
So you now have a solid toolkit for telling better stories in English. But the journey doesn't stop here, right? The resource we're drawing from moves on to other key communication skills.
That's right. Tomorrow's deep dive, based on day 9 of the material, tackles something loads of learners try, but maybe not always effectively: learning English from movies and TV shows.
Ooh, that's a big one. Everyone watches Netflix or YouTube, right?
Yeah.
But how do you actually turn that passive watching into active learning?
It's easy to just let the subtitles wash over you or get lost in complex plots. So tomorrow, we'll break down strategies from the source on how to choose the right kind of shows for your level.
That's important, not starting with something too hard.
Definitely. And techniques for actually training your ear to catch fast, natural speech. And the big question, subtitles. Are they a help or a hindrance? How should you use them effectively?
Okay, that sounds super useful. Lots of practical tips there, I bet.
There are, so definitely join us for that deep dive tomorrow, day 9, how to learn English from movies and TV shows. Make sure you're following the show so you don't miss it.
Will do.
And just to leave you with a final thought for today, related to storytelling, the resource points out that great conversations often start with great stories. Why is that? Fundamentally?
Because they're personal, relatable.
I think so. Stories share a piece of who we are. They build empathy. They create these little shared moments, these bridges between people. So think about this. How does consciously working on your story structure, mastering those tenses for clarity, and deliberately adding those engaging details, how does that fundamentally change not just your English, but your ability to genuinely connect with another human being through language?
That's deep. It's not just about being understood. It's about being felt, being related to.
Yeah.
Building those bridges, like you
That's it.
said.
Communication on a much richer level.
Powerful stuff. Okay, your challenge awaits. Find your story, use the framework, add that spark.
Keep practicing. Keep sharing your unique view of the world through your stories. It makes a difference.
We'll see you tomorrow for our next deep dive. Until then, happy storytelling.